Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here, and today I'm sharing a pink card which is showing how you can use limited ink colours to make your stamp layering with layering stamps. First I'm going to quickly create the background of my card using some Frosty pink ink from Altenew, and I'm just swiping it across the card base from left to right, and I have the lines evenly spaced. These mini ink cubes are about an inch square, so they're quite easy to work out the sizings of. I initially was just going across from left to right and leaving the right hand side so that it had kind of faded out, but I decided to go back and put it so the lines were all the way across. I'm then going to add a little bit more interest with a Delicata pink shimmer ink pad, and I'm just using the edge of the ink pad to add a narrow line above the wider lines I made with the Frosty pink ink. Pink shimmer is a very slightly different shade of pink, and as the name implies, it has some shimmer in it, so it just adds a bit more interest to that background, and I thought it filled out the design a bit more and added a bit more interest to it. So then I'm going to set the card base aside and I will start on the stamp layering, which is of course the focus of this video. So I've already die cut out all my elements and I'm using the negative space to help me line up my pieces so I can work through them all. And I'm going to use Frosty pink again for stamping my flowers. As I said, the idea of this video is to show you how you can use just one ink colour for your stamp layering, which is a great way to get more from your layering stamps, especially if you have a limited supply of colours, as I do. I do actually have the set of these Altenew inks that are designed to work for layering stamps, so it's Frosty pink, coral berry and ruby red, but I wanted a more subtle look, which is another thing that can be achieved by using just one colour, is that it won't be as extreme in the difference between the colour layers. So it works well if you want pastels, for example. I'm going to do the same with the leaves, and for the leaves I'm using Mountain Mist for all the layers, which is kind of a minty tealy colour. For the stamens, or the centre portions of the flowers, initially I was going to stamp them, but I actually changed my mind and decided to just press the die cut piece directly into my ink pad, and I chose Twilight, which is a Catherine Pooler ink, because I wanted a grey. This is actually a bit of a darker grey than I would have preferred, but it's the only grey I have, so I made do with it. So then I'm going to go back and add the second layer onto all of my flowers. The reason I did the bottom layer on everything first is that it lets that bottom layer dry a bit, and then the second layer is not going to bleed into it, because that can happen if you do the layers straight on top of each other without letting them have a moment to dry in between. And again, as I said, I'm using just the one colour, so I'm using Frosty pink again for the centres of those flowers. And I am using a double layer of it just to make it even darker. It will still be very subtle, but it just helps add a little bit more definition compared to the base layer. And I'll repeat the process again for the leaves, and the way they're spaced I can actually do both sizes of leaf at once. And again, going in with that Mountain Mist ink to add the detail layer to the leaves. The leaves themselves only have those two layers, where the flowers actually have three layers. They have a very tiny piece that goes in the centre. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have even need to do this middle layer because it's hidden by those stamen centres that I put over in the end. But in any case, I did these again with the Frosty pink ink, and it is just a touch darker and does show up a little bit more than the other layers. Having finished all my stamping, I'm going to work on assembling the arrangement. I decided it was getting a little bit lost against the background because of course the colours are the same colours. So I cut a panel of vellum to place over my card base, and that will just mute the background a bit and push it into the background so that the flowers will stand out more. Onto the stamen portions. Initially I was going to add foiling to the ends and the centre of these, and I did give that a try, but I didn't like the colour of it. So I used my sand razor to remove the foil and then decided to use Nuvo drops instead. The problem here was that I was so stuck in the idea of, okay, I'm trying to work out what to do to fix the problem I had with the foiling, that I went ahead and put the Nuvo drops on to see if that would work, and then realised I should have waited and done that at the end, because it actually caused me a lot of trouble having those wet Nuvo drops when I was trying to assemble the card, but more on that in a little bit. Once I had my floral arrangement worked out, I started adhering all the pieces into place, and I used Tombow mono-multi liquid glue for this, and I used my reverse tweezers to help me get everything into position. Then I'm going to carefully pick up the stamen pieces with my reverse tweezers and press them into place. As I said, this is a bit tricky with the Nuvo drops already on them because I'm trying not to squish them. And then, of course, when I pick up the second one, I managed to drop it upside down on my craft mat, which wasn't as big a disaster as I'd thought. It didn't smudge all of them everywhere, but the middle one was completely destroyed. So I persevered, I stuck it down and tried to think what to do. I picked the panel up and I tried tapping the back to see if I could flatten it out, but it was just set enough that that wasn't going to work. So instead I very carefully went in with my finger and picked up the Nuvo drop from there. It doesn't come away perfectly, but because I'm going to go back over it, that doesn't matter too much. And actually one of the smaller ones also, I ended up picking up that as well because it was a little bit smooshed. So once I'd wiped those off, I was actually able to press the centre into place more firmly on the flower, which was helpful anyway. And then I went ahead and replaced the Nuvo drops on it. So the Nuvo drops I have used, I'm not sure if I mentioned it already, but these are Bubblegum Blush Nuvo drops. I also, off camera, die cut and coloured a third centre for that third flower. Initially I was thinking I'd only use the Nuvo drops in the smaller flower, but I didn't like the way it looked, so I did make another centre for it. I also used a die from Marianne Designs to die cut Happy Birthday, and I coloured it with the Twilight ink again in the same way I'd coloured the flower centres. I would have preferred to have a scriptier font, but I didn't have a suitable die. If I hadn't done the Nuvo drops already, I probably would have used the birthday sentiment that comes in the stamp set for the Sakura blossom flowers, which are the flowers I had used. But I think it works well enough as it is. So I added more of that Tombow mono-multi liquid glue behind the flowers and the sentiment on my vellum panel so that I could then stick that onto the card base without any of the glue showing through. And having the flower arrangement in the opposite corner to the sentiment worked out really well because it meant I have glue on both of those corners, so the vellum panel is held in place very nicely. So that completes my card. This card was actually made for the Pretty in Pink challenge at Cupcake Inspirations, which I am on the design team for. The challenge is already well underway and there's a few days left to enter. If you do enter, you will be in for a chance to win a prize from Kitty B Designs, and all the information for that is over in my accompanying blog post, which you can find a link to in the description below, along with links to all the products used. If you enjoyed this video, please do press the like button to let me know. If you didn't, then the dislike button is right next to it. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever used layering stamps and whether you'd prefer the subtle look of using all one colour for the stamping, or if you prefer the more bold and defined look from using different shades for each layer. If you're not yet a subscriber, you can press my logo that's showing on screen now to subscribe to my channel. There are also a couple of other videos showing on screen if you'd like to see more from me straight away. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!